Assignment 2, Video 4. Right now the contours have been created, or the surface, existing ground surface has been created, and this step has to be done before we can create grid elevations or spot elevations. So at this stage right here, I am going to, first of all, before starting the grid elevations, turn on the layer command, and I'm just going to turn off the contours and turn off the existing topo labels and points, and make the existing grid point current, and click end, or close the layer dialog box. So to create grid elevations, what we have to do is go up to the home tab, go over to points. Since we now have a surface, we can create points using a surface, and we can create points on a grid. Clicking on this right here, AutoCAD will ask us to specify a grid base point. For this, the bottom left corner should be 1000, 1000. AutoCAD will ask us for a grid rotation, which we can simply state as 0, stay at 0. The grid X spacing will be 10, and the grid Y spacing will also be 10. AutoCAD then asks us to specify the upper right location, and that we know from class was specified as 1350, 1200. Once we hit enter, we see that AutoCAD puts up a box as to where the grid pattern is going to take place, and then asks us if we want to change anything. At this stage, we don't want to change anything, so we just simply hit no. And then AutoCAD will ask us to enter a point description. Again, I don't ask for point description, so we can simply hit enter. When we hit enter, we can take a look at the bottom left corner, and the first grid point appears. At this stage right here, we can simply hit enter again, and then the next one appears. And in the meantime, AutoCAD keeps asking us to create or to enter a point description. But again, since we're not entering one in, we can just simply hit enter. And then as we keep hitting enter, we can keep our finger on the button, and you can see all the grid points start to appear. After entering all these grid points right now, you'll get to the very end, and then it'll simply stop, and then you can, the next stage, at this stage right here, we can end the command by hitting escape as soon as we're done, and this is how you create grid points. The next step is to create a new point group. So we go up to our point group. We can actually collapse the surfaces. We can go to the point groups. We can see that the existing topo elevation point groups are already created. What we want to do is create a new point group using these grid elevations. So we'll right click on the point group. We'll create a new one. Under the information tab, we rename this point group to existing grid elevation. And now we have to specify what points to include. Now, in order to determine that, what you have to do is go to your all points and then go to point list. And if you recall from the very first point group, the existing top elevation that we created, the last point number for that was number 357. As you can see in number 358, the coordinates for that point is 1000, 1000, which is where we started. The next one, 1010 and 1000. So as you can see, what we want to do is start our point group, or start our point numbers from 358. Question is, where does it end? For that, we have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we find out that it ends at point number 1045. Knowing this, what we can do is uncheck under point group tab, uncheck the all points, go to include, click on the numbers matching, and before we had typed in 1 to 357 for the existing top elevation. For this one, we type in 358 to 1045. As soon as we do this and we click on the point list and we check, scrolling up to the top, we see it starts at 358, goes down to 1045. We can click on apply at this point right here, go to information. The next step that we have to do is change our point styles. To do this, we start with the existing topo point style. Clicking on this triangle here, we want to copy the current selection. First thing, we'll go to the information and change this from existing topo point to existing grid point. We'll go to the marker, and I believe this was switched to the plus sign. Check the assignment notes just to be 100%. And the next step is to go to the display or check that this is 0.5 millimeters. Then go to display, change the layer because it's still on existing topo point. Switch that to existing grid point. For the label, same thing, existing grid label. So once those have been switched over, we can click on apply. Click on OK. Click on OK, and we can see it's changed here. We have to do the same thing for the existing label style. So to do that, click on this down triangle, copy current selection, rename it to existing grid label. Under general, we have to switch the layer from existing top label to existing grid label. Go to the layout, switch the text height stays the same, but the rotation angle goes to 0. We can now click on apply. We can see it take place up here. Click on OK. Click on apply and OK. And you can see that the grid points have been created correctly. Okay, that concludes this video. Next one will show how to create spot elevations.